What's up, everyone? Welcome to the podcast Reviews. My name is Chris.
My name is Mike.
And this will be Mike's last podcast. I'm firing him.
Is this the last podcast? Actually, I was planning to replace you with the fish. So should we hear what the fish has to say?
Do we have to do it exactly like them? I mean, really? Roll that intro. Our podcast is called Reviews, and we review David Dobrik's podcast. He does one every week on Thursday, and then we go ahead and talk about the topics he talks about and give our opinions and maybe our experiences. So the first thing David talks about in his podcast is Jason not being himself when he was with his dad. Apparently his dad was visiting, and I think Jason apparently acts differently in front of his parents, which I think is I think maybe sometimes typical of people, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I didn't think there was except, they were talking about that if Jason felt if he had resentment towards his dad, and he said he didn't, but then later on he said maybe he did, and I think for sure he does because, I don't know about you. No, I do know about you. You don't always bring up as often as he does about something that happened in your childhood and how you feel about you. Like everyone knows, we all know that that he didn't think his dad did the best job of raising him, and that his dad was mean to him.
Right.
So
is that what it means?
It's bottled up.
Is that what it means? Yeah, resentment. Like you just like hold a grudge.
Yes, you don't like something about somebody and you hold it in.
All right.
So yeah, I think for sure he has some resentment, and it's crazy him being so old now that he's like it's still in him.
Right.
Like I can't even think. Like when I was listening to it, I kept thinking like, because he asked David vice versa. Did you have fights with your parents? And I mean, obviously I had fights with my parents, but I really don't remember them.
Right.
Like I wouldn't bring it up to say, oh my gosh, I was like. I mean, there may be things that I think about that, like, man, I wish my parents had did this, made me do this, or made me do that, or whatever. But nothing, nothing that I'm like, they make me so mad, when because of this. So anyway, and I think that for sure that's why he is the way he is with his kids.
Right.
Like
he's so nice to them.
He for sure doesn't want any resemblance of what his dad did to him, and I think 100% he's doing it. Like, I mean, his kids are just like everything to him.
Right.
And if he upsets them, the whole thing about stealing his car.
Yeah.
It's like David said he would probably buy him one. So you don't have to take mine. You can have your own.
Yeah. He seems like that kind of person. And, David brought up that when he was filming him while his dad was visiting, like Jason completely changed the way he was talking. Like he lowered his voice. He wasn't all silly or high pitched. So, I mean, that's kind of crazy to still do that at his age.
Yeah. But at the same time, I see what you're saying on that, but I kind of relate it to each of us. If we're around certain people, we do talk, with the slang or the accent, or,
right.
I think that's just completely normal. But
right.
It was like he was doing it like he was a 5-year-old, and he's scared of what his dad is going to do next at his age. Like that just tells you how bad it was. And it's cool that he still maintains the relationship, and because I feel like if Jason didn't maintain it, then his dad wouldn't give a fuck.
Yeah, that's true. And then Jason also asked David if he had any like significant moments in his life where he got in big trouble with his parents, and he said just getting caught with fireworks. But he did say that he doesn't really remember any real bad moments. He would get grounded, but he wouldn't have changed anything he did with his parents, the relationship with his parents, his friends, because he wouldn't be the same as he is today, which is completely true, I think.
Yeah, with everybody.
Yeah, with everybody.
You're a compilation of all of your experiences.
Yeah.
And they brought you where you were. Any change in any of those things, and they could have changed at any single point in time, but any change will obviously change the outcome.
Right. And then David goes on to talk about his last cry breakdown, because Jason was like, "When's the last time you cried?" And David was joking about saying he cried yesterday, the day before he made the podcast. But he actually said he did have a breakdown during, I think, right before the streamies. And what's interesting about what David said about his breakdowns, because he talks about breakdowns kind of often, right? Like I've heard it a few times in his podcast in general.
But so many of these social media people are always having breakdowns.
Yeah, I think because it's just fuel, right? Like the likes, the comments, the work that's put into it. It's pretty stressful and psychologically like tough.
Well, that must have been the day that he apologized.
Yeah,
for yelling. That it had to be that same time.
Yeah,
that
definitely.
Sounds like about 3 weeks ago.
And yeah. David talks about how he quickly rebounds from it, and I've caught myself doing the same thing, where I'm like super sad. And he also said this. He realizes that he's crying, and he's like, "Why the fuck am I crying?" Like, you know, and he gets out of it pretty quickly. But yeah.
See, and I get it, but I don't. That doesn't personally happen to me. I don't just randomly cry.
No, yeah, I don't think I've ever just randomly cried, but I feel like if he's breaking down, that's definitely way above what I've experienced. But usually when I'm just in a sad moment, I think like that, like, oh, I should stop crying, you know, or being sad.
What makes me cry is when I see somebody, and it's so hard to control too. I mean, it's ridiculous. When I see something really good, when I see something really good happening to somebody, like that God's Plan video, like I cried when I watched that.
Oh, that's the one where he's giving away money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, I guess my feelings for other people, like I can take pain, but I hate seeing someone else in pain.
Yeah.
Like it just makes me cringe. Like I saw this lady yesterday or the day before. She was drunk as hell. She was so thin. And she stepped off the curb and she just fell head first.
Damn.
Into the not the pavement, on the road. And her whole face just immediately was blue. And man, I couldn't stand it. But yeah, I don't just cry like thinking about like
the stress,
something's good or bad for me. But I'm easily, when somebody does, like I think even in one of David's videos, you know, when they're making somebody happy, and you see that genuine joy, that stuff gets me emotional.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, definitely. I know they don't really talk about it. At least I haven't run into any of those videos where like YouTubers or like famous people talk about them breaking down. And David talks about it, that he does break down, but he doesn't really explain it in detail, like what is stressing him out so much that makes him break down. He just touches upon it. But yeah, I guarantee it's just so much on his shoulders.
Well, like that dude Ice Poseidon, it's almost like every other week he's breaking down.
Yeah, he is definitely breaking down all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, he's got a pretty hard job. I mean, that would actually be interesting to see David do his lifestyle where he streams every time or every day.
Yeah,
that'd be interesting.
I always wonder why people choose which
recorded and not.
Why, you know, they can see the success of those things. And like I said, I've seen David live before a few times, and he did a good job, and he had tons of people watching. But I guess it just isn't what he wants to do. Like I said in that one vlog, where that Jason's vlog, where he was at his house being his assistant.
Mm-hmm.
I really felt like I saw a completely different David.
I need to watch that. I still haven't watched it.
Yeah, you see David as being David, and it's not the same David you would think it is.
It's not the first, like his show side.
Right. Like his vlogs are all like happy, and you know, he's got some of that, but it just looked different. Yeah, watch that and then tell me like what you think.
Yeah, I'll watch that. All right, and then as you know, typical in David's vlog, or not vlogs, podcasts, he does ads, and this time he talked about FrameBridge, and actually he's been talking about FrameBridge in the past like 2 to 3 or even more podcasts. So I think he's having a great deal with them. But as you know, with reviews, we don't like what he's talking about in his ads. So we don't think you should try out FrameBridge. You should try out Shutterfly, because I've used it and it's amazing.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a FrameBridge ad on TV?
Never. And that's why they have to go to David Dobrik, because he's probably the cheapest.
Yeah, he thinks he's getting a big money truck. He has no idea how big the other money trucks are.
Exactly.
The Shutterfly, shit, that thing, that probably has to come like on
a fucking airplane
trailer.
Yeah. They gotta do a care package drop.
Shutterfly, but I have heard of Shutterfly. Yeah. But I, you know what? I didn't know that's what Shutterfly did.
Yeah, no, Shutterfly is amazing. I mean, they do prints, they do accessories like for your keychains, they do mugs, pillows, canvases, books. It's amazing, and the quality is always good. I've used them, and it's very easy to use. So definitely check out Shutterfly. Promo code reviews. If you try it and it works, then we have become sponsored.
So it's so funny that David is like, David's asking Jason if he ever made him cry, and I don't know if you noticed this, but when he said it kind of in a weird way, like out of happiness, like almost that he knew he expected the answer to be no.
Yeah.
And I just he's conscious of this stuff.
Yeah.
But is he doing something to fix it? Like if I just with the people that you know that you're close with, except for like your wife or your girlfriend, you wouldn't like if you ask me like, hey, have I ever made you cry? No. Well, actually, you have made me cry. You bastard.
Well, I meant it. If it's happy or sad, asshole. I meant it.
No, when I watched your wedding videos.
Oh, I meant it. That's what I paid them for.
But yeah, it's that's shitty. But I mean, just from what we talked about.
No, but I think it's shitty.
I hate people being treated bad.
It's shitty, but I think David questioned it because he knows. And remember, he did say sorry, like a few weeks ago, right? So
yeah. So he's aware, but is he fixing it? It's somebody can say sorry to you like 100 times, but
right?
If they don't change, then it doesn't mean anything,
right? And then Jason did tell him that he did make him cry, happy and angry. He said very angry. I forgot what the reason was, but I don't think he touched upon it. But yeah, he said he made him very, very angry.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, we've got a long time to figure out this whole thing and get them the mental help they need.
Yeah, they've got sponsors for that. Okay, and then let's see. Jason was talking about giving up things, basically giving up on like his dreams or his career and things like that. He said throughout his life, because David was asking him, like, do you ever just wake up and just like say I'm done? Like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I think someone who doesn't have a typical job, like a 9-to-5 job or somewhere that you just, work hourly, I think for some people that's kind of tough on them. And I think that's why Jason said, I've given up on things many times, because he tried to do the comedy shows, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's tough. It was a small subject they were talking about, but I understand where Jason's coming from. Let's see. This is a good one. And I actually was talking to my wife about this. David remembers telling his friends that he's going to move to LA, and he hated their reactions because of him moving away and thinking he was going to become a big shot. And he just hated their reactions and said, I'm going to do it anyway. And looking back on it, he said that he's glad that he was in this illusion that he was going to be successful, because that was the only way he was going to be successful. And so what I was talking to my wife about is that I have never seen any famous person talk about this, because it's got to be so hard. And I'm sure David has this same problem. But when you go from being nobody to somebody famous and have money, you have to have the conversation with your family and friends on who's coming with you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because they're all going to come after you, and you're going to have to let some of them go. And I think it's just so interesting. I'd like to sit down with some famous people and ask them, like, how did that happen?
I think, I mean, this is just a guess, or from my perspective, that it's your day ones. Well, it's so easy to pick those people out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's hard to. I don't think it's hard. Like, would you think it would be hard?
No.
Yeah, you would know, who you were bringing with.
Yeah, like my top 10. Like my top 10. Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't, and I wouldn't feel bad that somebody felt like they were left out. I would know who,
Mm-hmm.
and you yourself, whoever you are, if you're not brought along, you should know that you weren't going to be brought along.
Well, you never know, right? Because some people.
No, they'll have a desire, but come on, bro. Look.
Yeah.
You
remember that time I let you borrow my pencil? Yeah, I just thought that was interesting, and I mean, I think that's how most people are treated, though, by their friends and family when they want to do something crazy, like move somewhere, especially Hollywood, and say, "Oh, I'm going to be an actor or actress. I'm going to make it big in the entertainment industry." And everyone's like, that's not a good idea, So
yeah, I see lots of people like that kid, Roy Purdy.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the same situation. His parents made him go to college, and after his first year, he did go to college, and he filmed his dancing and stuff there. But after that, he talked to his parents and says, "This isn't what I want to do," and he moved to LA.
Nice.
So, yeah, I think, and that's when they started talking about like the dreams of people, and we've already talked about their viewpoints on dreams of people, and I don't agree with it, that you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
So, and I can completely understand why a parent or even a friend would say, like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know, do you have any friends that are like trying to be rappers?
No, none at all. So like that's so
Okay.
hard for me to think about. Yeah.
So I know a bunch of people, and
but you don't know the right people.
I'm always positive. Well, I'm still looking out for, who is going to make it, and I know people that can make it and are doing decent stuff. But I honestly, every one of them,
Mm-hmm.
even if they're good, even if I think they're good, not saying they're good, even if I think they're good,
Mm-hmm.
in the back of my mind, I always think this is not going to happen. I mean, you're trying, and it's cool, and I listen to their stuff and whatever. But in the back of my mind, I would never tell them that.
Okay, but you think they're good, but why do you think it's not going to happen for someone you think is good? Is it because they might be good at the rapping part, but maybe not good as being motivated to, I guess, build a network?
It's everything is luck.
It's true, yeah.
People, to a certain extent, you get where you are from hard work.
Yeah.
But in college, they talked about the way to get promoted. They called it PI, performance. What's the I stand for?
Wow.
The performance and exposure. Oh, image, performance, image, and exposure. So this is how you move up, and this is how you get where you are. Performance is only 10%. So the work you do actually only accounts for 10% of why you're going to get where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Makes
it's assumed that you know how to perform. You're not going to be playing basketball if you can't play basketball.
Right.
An image, what you look like, what people think of you.
The perception of others. Yeah.
Yeah. That's another 10%. The 80% is exposure, and it's about the right person seeing you. Yeah. And so these rappers think, okay, like even Logic thinks like, okay, I worked this hard, and he did. He worked his ass off. But there was a possibility that the right person wouldn't see him.
Yep.
And so David is where he is by luck. He did work, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyone could have done what he did. It just being there at the right time, like people that did Vines and people that did Musically. Just certain things got them just that they fell in line that got you the exposure. I don't know what it was for David, but
Yeah, I
so
don't know.
just like Jason, honestly, if you even think about like comedians, what's the Kevin Hart? He didn't because. Do you think Kevin Hart just now got funny?
No.
Yeah, he didn't make it until he was in his 40s.
Right.
So, this calling people out for stuff. Some people don't put in the work, and so they're at their own. It's their own fault.
Right.
But
And David does bring that up. He says like there's some people who are confident, but they're not the right confident. And
but I feel like he was wrong about that too. Talking about
why
that when he said that they're when he said, I think he wasn't explaining it right.
Right.
That they're confident. There's one thing if you're saying, okay, they're confident for no reason because this guy thinks he's going to make the NBA and he can't play basketball. And so I don't know why he's dreaming about that. Okay, so you can say that, but he's kind of saying people are confident, like just straight up assuming that there's no chance for them in anything. When
I think I interpreted it this way. I think he was saying that people were saying they were good at something and confident in that, but they weren't actually good at what they were saying they were good at.
I took it as that was his view that they weren't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so because even Jason, when they were talking about the dude from David's high school that went to the NFL that could have went to NFL or NBA, right. Okay, he's top talent, and but I've said this before in one of the other podcasts. You look at people. Michael Jordan didn't start playing basketball till he was a junior. Nobody would if he was starting to play basketball for his first time as a junior, nobody would fucking think he was going to the NBA. So I don't think you can. I think you can say like, yeah, damn, your chances are slim.
That's fucked up.
No, because they are.
Right.
Like, so just work your ass up. Just understand it's not. Don't leave them clueless and say,
right.
Like, hey, you got to do a lot of shit to make it to that level. I told you about Steph Curry playing for Davidson. What the fuck was he doing playing for Davidson? He's the kind of player that should be playing for UNC or Duke. And so people are overlooked, but it's luck. Somebody had to go see him play. Well, they probably didn't. He actually, in his case, he did it himself. He went to a school, and you just couldn't ignore those numbers.
Right.
But yeah, so I just they're always kind of this mindset that, when athletes to me, I don't know if I told you this, but athletes to me, can you imagine working as hard as an athlete?
No.
There's nobody that works as hard as an athlete. People are always bitching about how much money they get paid. They get paid for throwing the ball, for bouncing the ball, especially like the white supremacist type people, like shut up and don't talk about kneeling because you're getting millions of dollars. Yeah, I'm working my fucking ass off for millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. We don't have to go to work and then after work do work for the work. like that's fucking crazy. Like they're constantly working.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Like, what would that feel like if you had to work? What would that look like to you if you had to work as hard as an athlete at your job?
I don't even want to think about it because I want to get out of my job and then not do anything. Let's be real.
Yep, that's exactly the truth. That's
exactly. Just something related. How you're talking about luck and people moving and making this change in their life, right? Same thing. I just went to the Bruno Mars concert and he talked about how he got started. Do you know this story? Like how he got started?
I don't think so.
So he said that when he first started off, he said, I'm going to move to LA. Same thing. And he was a songwriter. And so he was writing songs for a bunch of people. And at one point, he wrote a song. I think it was Beautiful Girls or something like that with B.O.B. Do you remember that song?
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful Girls. Yeah. So he said he wrote that song, but couldn't find somebody to sing it. And so he sang it himself. And he didn't realize that it was going to be popular until he was driving one day and he heard it on the radio. And at that point, he said this on stage. He said, when I heard my voice on the radio singing my song, he said, I knew that was going to be the rest of my life and no one could tell me shit. And he's like, that's when everything changed for me. And so, yeah, like he just got super lucky. someone got his song on the radio and everyone started loving it, and his life just completely changed. That's freaking crazy.
Yeah, people. It's just, all of these people that finally break out, like, Justin Bieber. They always could do what they did, but is somebody gonna, like, when you see some of these people on the Voice? I haven't watched in a while. Well, no, I did watch a few weeks ago with my sister, like one show. But so many of these people could be huge stars,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just who's willing to take a chance and then just blow somebody up.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that are missed, and so it's hard. Like, somebody says, "Oh, I'm going to be a famous singer or whatever." It's going to be. It's like saying, "Hey, you're going to be the CEO of a company." You can believe that, and it can happen, but
you have to get him right over the front. Get in front of the right people.
Right.
All right, let's move on. Okay, so they talked about this article that they read, and I actually read about this maybe like 2 or 3 days ago, where this man is applying. I think he's in the UK, or some other country, but he's applying to legally change his age so that he can be younger, from 69 to 49. And the reason for doing that is because he believes that he will be more successful on dating websites. Did you hear about this guy?
I did. Well, I didn't hear about it until this podcast, but I mean, that's crazy. But I liked his rationale. He's like, well, because I don't feel like I'm 69. I feel like I'm 20 years younger.
But okay, here's a question though. But do you think he should be able to?
I don't have the answer for that, because when I was thinking about it, I was thinking, like, okay, because you can change your name. I mean, I don't like. Is it like?
But your name is just a label,
right? So could you legally
change a measurement?
Like, yeah, your age is like a fact.
Yeah. I don't think he should be able to, or anyone, because it is a measurement.
Well, and why do you need to go through the whole? Just lie like everybody else.
I was thinking the same thing. Why do you have to legally do it? Just change it and never tell them.
When you talk to the girl, she says, "How old are you?" I'm 49.
Yeah. Exactly. Speaking of the dating apps, he was talking about, or David was talking about, there's a date.
Oh, wait,
what?
Wait, but maybe he doesn't. Maybe he wants it changed legally, so that. Oh, okay, I can see it. This was what I thought. Maybe he could change. Maybe changing it legally makes it so that he's not lying, and so that doesn't cause a problem down the road. Wait, you told me you were, or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe.
So I can. Huh.
That's still a lie.
She's like, I wonder why he died so young.
Speaking of the dating apps, they started talking about, David and Jason started talking about a dating app for like really good looking people who are in the entertainment industry. I forget what it's called.
It was like Rhea.
Yeah, Rhea or Raya or something. And it's for like rich people. Have you ever? So there's actually other ones that I've seen. Have you ever seen these?
No.
Okay, so my friend showed it to me, and she was like setting up a profile, and it literally will ask you your job title, how long you've been working there, and how much money you make. Like it wasn't the one they're talking about, but it was a different one it was like a dating app for high class people. And then once you submitted your application, you had to be approved by them, and then you could use their app to date and swipe through a bunch of potential people. That's crazy, but it makes sense.
It does make sense. The only part I thought that was kind of bullshit is you have to be really good looking. Like, what's the standard for that?
I don't know, but the other app again was just based on your job and how much you made. Obviously, you're gonna put a profile picture, but yeah, they were talking about it. You had to be a really good looking person who was in the entertainment industry, or be well known at least.
Well, I mean, obviously, I'd get past the really good looking part quick.
No,
that would be easy, but
no,
I can imagine it's tough for some people, like this one other guy that's on this podcast.
Yeah, I make the money, so I'll be good. Nah, I'm broke. I need more ads. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What else? What did they talk about?
it's Jason asking or David asking Jason if he's ever flown somewhere for sex.
Oh yeah. So this is weird because I think they talked about this before, and I think Jason said he hasn't, but then he went into talking about that he's jerked off on FaceTime, which I knew the answer. He didn't even have to talk about it.
Right.
I just felt.
Why was David shocked about that?
I don't know. He was very shocked.
Yeah, like
I knew the
it's
answer before he even answered.
absolutely. I don't get it. Like obviously, like you wouldn't even. It's because it's Jason. You wouldn't even, like him walking in on him masturbating or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not. None of that is surprising.
Right. And then they go into talking about him, jerking off on FaceTime and stuff like that. And they just realized like, oh, kids might be listening to the podcast, and it'd be funny to just see how it plays out with the kid with their parents in the car. And that's gotta be super funny, right? Because they know that there's kids listening to their podcast and even their vlogs. And, some kids might be like, oh, Mom, Dad, I love these guys. They're so funny. And then they want to play it on like Bluetooth. And then they get to this kind of part,
Well, that's happening. But, I feel like parents now are way different than your parents were or my parents
yeah.
were. Parents now are kind of like, they know they need to give their kids some space because the ones that don't are just producing screwed up kids.
Yeah, and they're gonna do it. The kids are gonna do it anyway.
Yeah, and like when we talked about like the social media thing, and we talked about comedians, people in the audience being sensitive. I on that kind of thing, I think like when somebody does something or says something, and then they're like did you ever see the girl Kathy? I think it's Kathy Griffin that held up Donald Trump's head.
Oh yeah.
You remember
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was huge backlash, and she gave, she gave an apology for doing it and whatever, and she's fine now. But what I think on this topic very strongly is that it's not just about people being sensitive; it's about someone overreacting to that person's sensitivity.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, the company overreacting. So
yep.
Stephen Colbert last year. I don't know if you heard this, but he made a joke about Putin or about Trump sucking Putin's dick.
Wow. And I didn't know that.
He made the gesture. Like you can look it up. There's this huge campaign, like by people on the right, to get him fired.
Wow.
And they portrayed it as he was making fun of homosexuals. That wasn't what he was doing. He was making a joke because he thinks Trump sucks Putin's dick or whatever.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, fuck. I hope that some people are going to be upset and they're going to be upset, and that's okay. I mean, that's part of his job. And I think that...
You're muffled. What'd you do with your mic?
I think the brand... Is it still?
Yeah, good.
The brand makes the decision that, I need to get away from this guy. Because people aren't going to like us. Nobody's going to give a fuck.
Right.
Like you stop giving a fuck. Like it's not just that the people are being sensitive. It's that somebody's reacting to it. And so I was so happy the next time Colbert came up, because he didn't tweet at all after that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it became such a big deal. And then he came back and he's like, I should have used, I probably could have used some different words, but I don't regret what I said. And CBS stood behind him and just said, keep going. And that's the problem. So the same thing with David and Jason and this kind of stuff, the kids, they know.
Yeah.
They say cuss words, they masturbate. Like you just listen to all of his conversations, and he was doing that when he was the kids who are listening to him age.
Okay, but here's the thing though. Like let's just say some of these sensitive topics or even something that's different come up, and I think it's your nephew, right?
Uh-huh.
What if it played in front of him and you? Like, how would you react with him?
I react the same way I told you that parents react now. Like, I get it.
Oh, okay.
Like one time when I first came back, we went out to dinner, and my nephew and my niece were, my oldest niece, they kind of got me alone. And it was crazy. Their first question, Uncle Mike, do you smoke weed?
He said that?
Like, Yeah.
Wow.
And they're like, they just wanted to know. And I just decided at that moment, just in a split second at that moment, that I will always be 100% honest with them. Like, because I felt like that was important. That was an important part of my role. And so I was like, yeah, I smoked weed. And then the second question was, what kind of beer do you like? And he was 13.
Wow.
And she was 12.
That's crazy.
But my sister and my parents would never think that they would ask me that. I told you, even when they were like damn 6 years old, we're in a damn at some kind of fair, and we're in those spinning cups.
Yeah.
And just to be funny, and I'm recording this. I have it. I have to send you that one day. So he's 6 years old. We're in those spinning cups, and just to be funny, I acted like I was scared, and I was like, whatever. The kid starts saying, "Fuck, shit," and I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, I was shocked. They were like, "Don't tell my mom," and I was like, "Okay, I won't," and I didn't until later, until they were like older. But people are just being blind, and you're again that whole sensitivity thing. You're the only person who's being fooled is you,
right?
When you restrict it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And now David the asshole.
Yeah, David the asshole.
Don't you, asshole saying pineapple.
Yeah, so David's catchphrase, or his new catchphrase, is that he says pineapple when someone's explaining themselves or something, and he just thinks it's a shitty idea. He just says pineapple, and now people know.
That would piss me off if you did that. I mean, he's got to pick and choose. But
right.
To
have a catchphrase.
But that would be just that to me. That's so rude. Now I think the other thing that he was saying, "This ain't it, Chief." I never heard anyone say that, but I like that one.
Yeah,
like that's a little softer. Pineapple is just fucking cold.
And then Jason goes into talking about what he would do if David ever died, or just decided that he didn't want to do YouTube anymore, because he's going to actively try to pursue stand-up comedy again, from what he was saying. And he said he wants to make money on his own. It's kind of funny, though, because David was like, nah, I love my life. I'm going to keep doing YouTube, which I completely expected, because why the fuck would he leave?
Yeah, that was kind of weird. And I get it. I think it's kind of cool that he's like planning for life after David.
Yeah.
But I think he should, like, there'll obviously be a big hole.
Yeah.
So just take up that hole. Just take up where David left off. And also because Jason's got so much exposure in the industry, so he has some respect, even though the conversations are always like he's shit, but I disagree with that. If I was Jason, I would start looking to bring people to where David is.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got all the resources. He knows the plan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He could literally do that, and he would be the perfect person to do it.
Yeah. Okay, and then they go into talking about is another article that David read. 17,000 people in the UK are still using black and white TVs. So I'm assuming you use a black and white TV because you're a loser.
Well, 17,000 is not a lot of people.
Fuck yeah, it's a lot of people. I don't even care what what the actual population is. 17,000 people. 17,000 people are using a black and white fucking TV when TVs are fucking like $200.
Well, I wonder if old people get set in their ways.
I don't care.
And maybe it has something to do with the.
What I want to know is how they still work.
But do you know you have to pay some kind of tax?
For what?
In the UK to watch TV.
Why?
That's just their law. So maybe there's something related to those TVs
that makes you tax free.
There's there's a TV tax. I forget how much it is, a month or a year, but yeah, the government taxes you to use it if you by the number of television sets you own.
What the fuck?
Yep.
How do they know? You have to
I
report
don't know.
it?
They probably have people come in.
Oh,
Come
probably
and
like,
verify.
with the cable companies, probably.
But like, and we have weird, stupid taxes like that too. Do you know, like in Illinois, there's a occupancy tax. So if you live somewhere, you have to pay a tax for living there. Serious.
That's fucking stupid.
in Missouri, there's a property tax. So your car is considered property. So you have to pay a tax because you own a car on top of all the other things, on top of the registration, on top of you have to pay property tax. And they don't let you get a license unless they verify that you paid your last year's property tax.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Then David goes into talking about that he thinks the Views podcast, his podcast, is the easiest podcast to listen to. And I sort of agree. And if it is the easiest to listen to and get into podcasts, we are the second.
Nope. I think because we're reviewing his podcast, nothing's easier than this. I mean, I'm sorry.
But I mean, I think we are good. I mean, we might even be neck and neck. But the reason why I say we're second is because in order for you to kind of get where we're coming from, you might have to listen to him a few times.
Right.
That's the only thing. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
But we're pretty easy to listen to because you're just going to listen to us and we're reviewing people and topics.
Enough of that bullshit loser talk. We're number one, and we only get W's out here.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, David.
Now,
I was going to say the F word, but never mind.
Now, the only way David would become number one, possibly, but which would be impossible at the same time, is if he stopped podcasting, because then we would have nothing to podcast about.
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah, that's true.
That's funny.
And then
my favorite part
Yeah.
of the whole Views podcast, Joe's Teeny Weeny Podcast.
Yeah, I know.
I love that name.
I know.
So much.
I know you love this part. I like it, but he just seems so weird. I don't know. He's so he's like a little kid.
That's his. I feel like that's his thing.
Yeah.
And I love how he fucking brought Blue Moons, and how David had to say a Blue Moon is a beer, by the way.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. I bet you majority of his audience didn't know what that was.
Right.
So I thought it was cool that he brought it out there, but he did that little ASMR thing.
Start whispering into the mic,
which was so cool. Like I don't know. I think he's fucking.
But did you hear about what David's manager is gonna do for him?
Yeah, just what we were talking about.
Yeah.
I bet you his manager listened to our podcast.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because that's brilliant. He should absolutely do that.
Yep.
Like, because Joe is a brand in his podcast that 500,000 people are listening to.
Right.
Fucking crazy. And we're getting half of 10 people listening to us.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But they're the best people.
Right.
If you're listening to this right now, you're the best people.
And if you're listening to us on Spotify, well, they didn't give us any money.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and say Apple Music.
Except podcasts don't go on Apple Music. So I know we don't like David's ad companies, but this one I'm going to say I like Spotify.
No, what's that old one? I saw a friend that uses it. It was kind of a brown logo, the old streaming service.
I don't remember.
Oh, fuck. Yeah. Damn it. What was that called? Anyway. So they're talking about Jason on
Cameo.
On Cameo. I wonder if he went on Cameo right after the whole Verdun.
I think so.
Is that what? That's horrible.
Yeah. He's like, this kid's making money. I want to make money too.
That's fucking nuts.
So Jason's on Cameo, which is an app that allows people to pay famous people and it can range from like super famous to YouTube famous or just well known, and you can purchase a shout out. So you could purchase from Jason, which he charges $50 per shout out, to say, hey, Melissa, this is Jason Nash here. I wanted to say happy birthday, blah, blah, blah. But that's basically what it is. And so I think after Vardon started using it, Jason was like, I can do that too. And I wouldn't see why he wouldn't. It makes sense.
It does make sense, but it's just a little like Oh, Verdun. Oh, you're making this much money? He's found out he's making $700 a week.
Yeah.
So now he's doing it. I would love to know. You'll never know, but it'd be cool to know like who did it, how many people did it. But did you hear him when he said that he was going to lower that
No, he
price?
said he's gonna get off of it.
Oh, get off of it.
Yeah, he's gonna say. Yeah, he's gonna get off of it.
Oh.
And then they go into talking about how Jason makes lots of money now. Which why? Remember, like we know he only gets what? What did he say for per podcast? He gets like
It was like 16 or 17%. It was between 1,000 and 3,000.
Yeah, but now David has kind of broken, I guess, a secret that Jason somehow now makes tons of money. I wonder what changed.
I wish, yeah, I like always. I wish they just went into more detail.
Yeah,
You know, you bring it up. They're trying to be transparent, but give a little more shit. Like what's happening? Like what's the cause of this?
yeah. You don't have to
But
tell us how much, but like how.
Yeah, and I think that's good. That's good for Jason. Good that he's doing better. But it's still kind of crazy that he's thinking about like what happens if David's dead, and what am I gonna do?
Right.
And so he's like he's trying to do that comedy thing. But the fact that it's like a real thought that David could die.
Yeah, because of how he acts and his behavior.
Yeah, he's consciously thinking that. Like, isn't that crazy?
It is.
Wow.
Because honestly, I mean, think about it. Jason's kind of being carried by David, right? So.
Right. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what would happen after that. Like all these people, like what if something happened to Jake Paul? Like what would happen to his whole network?
Right.
Yeah.
But,
you know,
it would be like a slow death, I think.
For all the other people.
Yeah, of their careers. Like the viewers will stick with them for a little bit, but as people grow older and they start to do it a little bit less, I think they will find someone else to follow.
Well, I think they're dependent on. I don't think it's a stat. Maybe they do have. Maybe it is a stat they have available, but how many viewers fall off every day because they're adding new viewers. So how many viewers are not watching anymore, and how many new viewers are coming in?
Yeah,
because that's what everything will be dependent upon. It'll be dependent upon like continuing to like grow an audience because everybody's going to stop watching at some point.
Yeah, and if you guys are familiar with Jason Nash or with David and the Vlog Squad, I mean, David said that he's making so much money now to where, or even Jason said this, that he's making so much money now that he was looking for Ferraris for David, which is crazy.
Unbelievable. Like I don't get it.
Yeah,
and
I don't get it.
David clearly wants him to get him a Ferrari.
Yeah, he does. He didn't want Trish. He didn't want Trisha to do it because he was gonna feel bad. But he's like, if you got a Ferrari.
Yeah, he's like kind of playing it off, toying with it back and forth, and so pretty much here's the deal: Jason's getting David a Ferrari.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I mean, 100%. It's like for David to actually give him the specs.
Yeah,
he said. Wait,
with a window. I want a window to show the engine.
Yeah, with the color of the seats.
Yeah,
just making it very clear exactly what he wants. But I don't know. That's to me. That's still. I mean, okay, buy somebody a gift. But why the fuck does David want him to? Why does he want it as a gift? Why didn't he just go get his own damn Ferrari?
I don't know. I don't get that. Yeah, I don't get that. Maybe he's stingy with his money. Because, I mean, you hear, like, most rich people are stingy with their money. Have you heard that?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I wonder why that is. Oh, because they want to stay rich, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, that's why, rich people don't tip.
Oh.
Because they feel like they're giving you a handout.
That's crazy. I feel like if I became rich, I would, like, I feel like I would want to like give my money to people to change their make them happy for the day or something,
Yeah, absolutely. Like those people I forget who they are, but even somebody recently just left a waitress $1,000 tip.
Nice.
And those things are really cool because you really did just you just changed so much for that person instantly.
Right. Because they need it. No one's not gonna say they don't need money.
Well, yeah, everybody needs money, but some of these people, like strippers and bartenders, they make bank.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they make some money.
Well, this is a first for me. I don't know how far you've went back into listening to David's podcast, but he read an ad wrong for the first time.
That was the first they did such an amazing job of reading it, because they started to roll through what they were reading. So they were reading the frequently asked questions.
Yeah.
And I just love how they rolled into it, because it was like starting to get like, what would that be like if you were giving a speech on the 4th of July? They started to make it sound like that, and it climaxed, and they were like, and we do this and we do that, and I thought they did great. They were like getting emotional in that read. That was hilarious.
It was a great read, but they were just reading the frequently asked questions.
Well, even as they were doing it, I'm like, what the hell are they talking about?
Exactly, because I've heard them talk about honey before, and I was like, what the fuck is all of this? And I was like, it sounds so good, though.
They did such a great job, and then they read the wrong thing. They were reading the frequently asked questions instead of the real ad, so they had to go back in and insert the real ad. And it's so funny, the thing they inserted, I couldn't even tell that was David's voice.
Yeah, it was a completely different system, I think they just recorded on the iPhone or something.
Yeah, that was hilarious. I wonder how they found out they read the wrong thing.
I have no clue. But as always, on the Reviews podcast, they talked about Honey as a browser extension to save you money. Don't use Honey, because Honey won't save you as much as WikiBuy. WikiBuy will save you tons of money. Install that extension on Chrome, and you will find all the best prices across the internet on anything you're looking at. I've used it. It's amazing.
Interesting. I have not, but I know it's amazing.
That's right. And there's no promo code.
Just no promo code for that?
It's just, it's free.
So talking about David stealing that's so crazy that he got away with it. I think I got away I did get away with stealing no, I didn't steal the car.
I think that's fucking nuts.
I put the car in a ditch.
What the
got
fuck?
It out and got it all cleaned up, and they never knew. To this day, they never know that I did that.
But see, here's the crazy thing. I've had so many friends tell me they've taken their parents' car, and I've always been deathly afraid to even get near my parents' car.
Yeah.
I could not imagine myself doing that.
I can imagine David's personality. He just seemed like he was very rebellious. But it was so crazy that it just seemed so calm and nothing,
like it was another activity.
Yeah, we just had to run to the store real quick. He stole his mom's car to go buy a book.
Yeah, so Jason was asking David, like, what was like the worst thing he did, or one of like the craziest things he did when he was younger. And David said he took his parents' car at 14 years old, and he didn't go on like a joyride or anything. He just wanted to go buy a book at Barnes and Noble with his friends.
And then the space that he was parked in was still open when he came back.
Yeah, so it was like a public parking area. So lucky him, because that's crazy. And that's a funny thing to come to realize when you're older, is that you don't realize all the logistics and like things you need to think about to cover yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, everything comes through experience, like even like a drug dealer.
Yeah.
You go, like, what you're protecting yourself from not getting caught. But he said, David was playing with fireworks. That was what he got in trouble for.
That's what his parents busted him for. Like the biggest thing was having fireworks and like using them. And he got grounded for a week. And he said his parents grounding, because Jason was like, oh, was being grounded for you like relaxed, like after like a day or two, and they would just let you do whatever you want. David was like, no, my parents, when I was grounded, no TV, no video games, no going out, nothing. And that was how it was for me. But yeah, I had friends that were like, oh yeah, I'm grounded, and it'd be like, oh, they could still watch TV in their room, be on their phones, all that stuff. That shit that's crazy to me. I was grounded and I had to stare at a wall.
No, that's crazy. That was the way it was for me. Was like I would get grounded for a week, or maybe me and my sisters would get grounded at the same time, or whatever. But it would always get ended early. It would be like a week, and then it wouldn't be a week. It'd be like tonight or tomorrow.
I think I told you this, but it's just related, but I think I told you this, but my parents were so strict on the whole thing about being grounded, and I'm not gonna say why I got grounded. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I was curious if you were gonna say.
No, I'm not gonna say why I got grounded, but they grounded me through Christmas. And I couldn't. I was almost not allowed to open presents. But even after I opened the presents, I couldn't touch any of them. Like,
wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Damn. Yeah, that's hardcore.
Yeah, it was very hardcore. I mean, they kind of let up towards New Year's, but yeah, I was already grounded like at least a month and a half before then.
Damn, that's rough. And I think that's you can tell that Jason treats his kids, like just the opposite of what he was treated. And talking about his kids being too perfect, and then David saying that Jason's too nice to his kids. But it sort of sounds like he doesn't have there's no need to. So I wonder why David thinks he's too nice.
But here's the thing. I don't understand, because have you seen the vlogs with his kids?
I only saw one.
Okay.
What did they do in this last one? I went back and watched like the last 4 or 5 a couple days ago.
Well,
and there was one where his kid was playing. Was his kid the one with the violin or with the trumpet?
Something like that. Yeah, he was with the instrument. But,
yeah, that's what I saw.
But I have seen both of his kids in some of the vlogs, and even his vlogs, Jason's vlogs, and in general, for the small amount of time that you get to see them, they are so good. Like, you can just tell that they are very good kids. And what blows my mind is I know that Jason and David always have this not argument, but they always bring it up where his kids are too perfect and nice, and Jason's also too nice. But that doesn't always work. When you're too nice and lenient, sometimes kids they run all over their parents, but these kids don't. It's crazy.
Yeah, we talked about it before, but it's kind of a balance of being nice and firm. And the exact thing when they were talking about how nice David's teachers were. Just that balance of, so like if Jason is upset one day at one of his kids, it's gonna kill him.
Yeah,
it's gonna hurt him because So I don't know why he keeps saying that. Like, it's one thing if his kid did steal the car, and then he said, "Oh, you're way too nice." But what did they do? Like, what do they do that he shouldn't be nice?
Right.
So that makes no sense to me.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for today's podcast with reviews. Again, we are using the Anchor app. If you have any comments or want to leave us a message, get on the Anchor app and find our podcast and leave us a message.
And hit us up on Twitter too.
Yeah. Reviews podcast 1, the number 1, and just type to us and we'll respond to you. But yeah, that's it for today's podcast. My name's Chris.
My name's Mike, not Jeff, and the next podcast will be with me and a fish.
I have to practice making fish sounds. All right, peace.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.